So, hello and welcome to today's class. Now, today we're going to look at page 49. Okay, page 49. So, when you are ready, open page 49, please. And we're going to look at exercise 2, vocabulary and speaking. Now, the focus of this vocabulary exercise is expressing feelings with verbs or ed and ing adjectives. Now, let's have a look at the green box. Now, we know whenever we see one of these green boxes, we must pay attention, isn't that right? Now, ways of talking about feelings. So we often talk about feelings in 3 different ways. Number 1, by using a verb, for example, annoy. That noise is starting to annoy me. Now, that noise is starting to annoy me. Or number 2, by using an ing adjective, for example, in this case, annoying. That noise is really annoying. No, that noise is really annoying. And number 3, by using an ed adjective, no, from the same verb would be annoyed. I'm getting really annoyed by that noise. I'm getting really annoyed by that noise. No, so you can see the verb annoy, no? The adjective with ing, annoying, and the adjective with ed, annoyed. Now here it says, remember that the rules for pronouncing ed adjectives are the same as for regular past tense verb. For example, annoyed ends with the sound d. No, because annoy has a voiced sound, so the voiced sounds go with the voiced sound d. No? Irritated. Well, irritated is a verb which ends in the letter T, no? Or the letter D would be another example. And in that case, the ed is pronounced id. No? Irritated. And finally, the last group would be the letter T, the sound, t, no? And depressed. No? So these unvoiced sounds, no, like s, k, no, sh. When we add ed, the ed is pronounced t. No? Depressed. So we have annoyed, d, irritated, id, and depressed, t. No? Now, if we need to revise that, we can do it, no problem. Now, let's move on to exercise A. Now, it says, complete the sentences, very important, with the correct form of the word in bold. Now, the correct form of the word in bold could be by conjugating the verb, could be by using an ing adjective, or it could be by using an ed adjective. So first of all, let's take a look at the words in bold. Now, can you see them over here? Let's have a look. So we have infuriate, now, is a verb. Frustrate is a verb. Embarrass is a verb. Exhaust is a verb. Disappoint is a verb. Amaze is a verb. Are you noticing a pattern? Terrify, is a verb. Inspire is a verb. Confuse is a verb. And thrill is a verb. So we need to read the sentences and we need to decide if we're going to use the verb and conjugate it, or if we're going to use an adjective with ed or an adjective with ing. So here in this exercise, we have 10 more verbs, no? Which can be used or which have an ed or ing adjective to express how I feel about something. Now, let's have a look at number 1. Now, it really me when people drive close behind me. So the first thing we need to do is decide if we need a verb, no, if we need an adjective. Now, I think in this sentence, what do you think? Take a moment to fill in the gap. Have you got an answer? Well, we need a verb, don't we? It really infuriates me, no? It makes me feel very angry. It infuriates me, no? When people drive close behind me. So there we need to conjugate the verb, no? It really infuriates me. It makes me really angry. Okay, what about number 2? Now, I get very when something goes wrong with my internet connection and I don't know how to fix it. Okay. Here, do we need a verb? Do we need an adjective? And if I decide that I need an adjective now, which I think is the case here, we need to choose whether the adjective is going to be ed or ing. So take a moment, fill in the gap. Have you got an answer? Well, let's see. Frustrated, no? I get very frustrated because I feel frustrated, no? When something goes wrong with my internet connection and I don't know how to fix it. Now let's look at number 3. The verb is embarrass. Now let's read the sentence. It's so when I can't remember somebody's name, but they can remember mine. Now again, decide if we need a verb or an adjective. If it's an adjective, do I need ed or ing? And take a moment to complete the sentence. Have you got an idea? Let's fill in the gap. It's so embarrassing. Now, excuse me, the word is a bit long, but we can fix that. It's so embarrassing with ing, embarrassing, no? Because the situation produces that feeling, no? So it's so embarrassing when I can't remember someone's name, but they can remember mine. Now, what about number 4? Let's take a look. Now we need to use exhaust, no? Okay. I used to love shopping in the sales, but now I find it, after an hour, I just want to go home. Now again, take a moment to decide if we need to use the verb, need to conjugate that verb, or if we need an ed adjective, which would be exhausted, or if we need an ing adjective, exhausting. Have you got an answer? Let's see. Now again, it doesn't fit, but it's only the G, so let's have a look. I find it. I used to love shopping, in the sales, but now I find it exhausting, ing. After an hour, I just want to go home. Now let's look at number 5. Now it says, I'm often with my birthday presents. My expectations are obviously too high. Now we have to use disappoint. Now again, decide if we need a verb. Do we need ed, disappointed, or ing, disappointing? Have you got an answer? Let's see. I'm often, again, it doesn't fit, but we can fix that. Don't worry. I am, what do you think? Disappointed, ed. I'm often disappointed when my birthday presents, no? With my birthday presents, my expectations are obviously too high. Now what about number 6? It me that some people still don't buy things like books and music online. Now again, let's take a moment. Let's see, do we need a verb? Do we need amazed, which would be ed, or do we need amazing, ing? What do you think? Have you got an answer? That's right, we need the verb here. It amazes me. It amazes me. No, I am very surprised. It amazes me that some people still don't buy things like books and music online. Now what about number 7? I find speaking in public absolutely, I hate doing it. Now my verb is terrified. Do I need to conjugate that verb, or do I need to use ed, which is terrified, or ing, terrifying? What do you think? Oh, let's see. We need terrifying, no? ing. I find speaking in public absolutely terrifying. I hate doing it. Number 8. I've often been, by reading about how some successful people have overcome difficulties. Now you must use inspire. That's the verb. Ed would be inspired, ing, inspiring. What do you think? Let's see. Oh, inspired, ed, no? I've often been inspired by reading about how some successful people have overcome difficulties. What about number 9? I never find instructions for electronic devices helpful. In fact, usually they just me. Now we need to use confuse. Do we need to conjugate that verb, or do I need ed, confused, or do I need ing, confusing? Take a moment. What do you think? Well, we need, let's see, the verb here. Did you get the verb? I never find instructions for electronic devices helpful. In fact, usually they just confuse me. And number 10, when I travel, I'm always, if I manage to communicate something in a foreign language. Now, thrill means like excited, very strong excitement. Now, do we need the verb, or do we need ed, thrilled, or ing, thrilling? Have you got an answer? Let's see. Let's see, we need ed here now. When I travel, I'm always thrilled if I manage to communicate something in a foreign language. Now, before we listen to these sentences, have you noticed anything about the adjectives in ed and the adjectives in ing? Well, just to revise, ed adjectives are used, no? Usually for people, no, when they feel that action of the verb, no? However, we usually use ing, no, for the person, the thing, or the situation which produces that feeling, no? So really, when I say that I feel excited, no, usually that is the state that I'm in. So this usually coincides with estar, no? And if I say this film is exciting, well, this is usually the permanent state of that film, no? And it usually is expressed with ser, no? So you're very sophisticated with your ser and estar. Oftentimes you will have two adjectives, no? For example, sorprendido, no? The past participle, like we do in English, and sorprendente, no? Which would be the ing, no? Deprimido, no? Or deprimente, no? Frustrante or frustrado. But not always, no? Do these options exist. So I think it's also worth bearing in mind, no, your difference between ser, which in English is ing, and estar, which is ed. No? Now, let's listen to the sentences. Here we go.
3.16. 1.
It really infuriates me when people drive really close behind me.
2.
I get very frustrated when something goes wrong with my internet connection and I don't know how to fix it.
3.
It's so embarrassing when I can't remember someone's name, but they can remember mine.
4.
I used to love shopping in the sales, but now I find it exhausting. After an hour, I just want to go home.
5.
I'm often disappointed with my birthday presents. My expectations are obviously too high.
6.
It amazes me that some people still don't buy things like books and music online.
7.
I find speaking in public absolutely terrifying. I hate doing it.
8.
I've often been inspired by reading about how some successful people have overcome difficulties.
9.
I never find instructions for electronic devices helpful. In fact, usually they just confuse me.
10.
When I travel, I'm always thrilled if I manage to communicate something in a foreign language.
Now, so there are the sentences read by the professionals. Now, I just want to point out before we move on, can you see it says, then with a partner, say if the sentences are true for you or not, give examples or reasons. Now, feel free to send me a text message, an audio message with your ideas, or your reactions to some of these sentences. Now, let's move on to another green box. Oh my goodness, this must be really important because we have two green boxes. Let's have a look. Can you see? It says feelings, adjectives that have an ed form but not an ing form. So I imagine we're very used to having the bored, boring, interested, interesting, but there are some which exist in the ed form but do not have an equivalent ing form. So the ing form doesn't exist. They have a different form to express this ing. Let's have a look. So it says a few adjectives, ed adjectives, describing feelings don't have an ing form. So for example, impressed. And this is a very important one because this is a very useful adjective. So impressed, the other alternative is impressive. Burgos Cathedral is quite impressive. So not impressing. Okay, so in this case, we have the ed, impressed, but we don't have an ing, we have impressive. Okay, now in exercise C, we're going to see some more examples now of adjectives which exist with an ed form but do not have an equivalent ing form. Let's see. So it says, we are extremely impressed by your CV. Your CV is extremely impressive. Now that's the example. It's the one from the green box. Let's see number 2. I'm very stressed. Now this again is a very common one and a very useful one. So here, what do we need to remember? My job is very stressing. No, stressing, ing, doesn't exist. What's the alternative? Do you know? Stressful, now full of stress. No? So in this case, we would talk about stressful and stressed. Okay? Now, what about my next one? The next one is, I was really scared during the film. No, scared means frightened. Huh? The ending was especially, now I think you know this one because there was a kind of a parody movie maybe 15 years ago, maybe longer, no, which was called what? Scary Movie, no? So I was really scared during the film. The ending was especially scary. So here we have scared and scary. Now what about number 4? I was delighted to meet Jane. No, delighted to meet you. She really is, a person. Well, not ing. Do you know what the alternative is? Delightful. No, look like stress. No, so let's make it yellow. Like stress, we have delighted, but we have delightful. No, full of delight. No, so we have stressed and stressful, delighted, delightful. Now, number 5. I was really offended by what you said. Offended. Anybody know the ing? Doesn't exist. What's the alternative? What you said was really offensive. So offensive is like, now we have offended. Offensive is like impressed and impressive. No? So we have impressed, impressive, offended, offensive. We have stressed and stressful. We have delighted and delightful. And then we have one which is different to all the others. Number 3, scared and scary. Okay? Now, we have a speaking exercise. And again, I'm going to encourage you to maybe send me an audio or even a written. You don't have to speak. You can write message. Now, let's see. It says in pairs, choose 3. And again, I'm going to choose 3. Now, choose 3 circles to talk about. Now, let's read them all. It says, an embarrassing mistake you once made. I've made so many. I don't think I could just tell you one. No? Something that makes you feel depressed. Well, I think I'm going to tell you. In this case, I think that maybe bad weather makes me feel depressed. No, I think it's depressing when you want to go out and it's raining, and it just makes me feel a little bit depressed. No? A film or a book that you found really disappointing. Well, again, I can't really remember. What about something that really annoys you when you're shopping? Oh, this one. Do you remember in exercise 1 when I told you it drives me mad when shop assistants don't pay attention to the customers? No? So maybe they're talking to one of their friends or maybe a co-worker, but they should be paying attention to the customer. No, this I find really annoying. It's so annoying, in fact, that it drives me mad. What about the next one? Something that frustrates you about learning English? Well, I can tell you something that frustrated me about learning Spanish, and that is your beautiful, wonderful, highly sophisticated subjunctive. No, it was really frustrating for me to try to learn about your subjunctive, and I think I still get frustrated because I don't use it properly after so much time. No, and finally, something that really stresses you in your daily life. Now, again, I'm going to encourage you to choose 3 and maybe send me an audio message or a written message and let me know what you feel now or how you feel about these things. Now, before we finish for today, I wanted to go just very quickly to our workbook. Now, again, don't worry if you don't have a workbook. But if you do have the workbook, we're going to look at page 33 and we're going to look at exercise 2, which is vocabulary, ed and ing adjectives and their related verbs. Now again, it's just for further practice. Now let's see. Now it says complete the sentences with an adjective or a verb made from the word in bold. Now let's have a look at the example. These dark winter days are very depressing. No? Okay, now let's have a look at number 2. Now it says, looking after my sister's 3 small children is for my parents. Now we need to use the correct form of exhaust. Take a moment, let me know what you think. Have you got an answer? Exhausting, you know? So looking after my sister's 3 small children is exhausting for my parents. Or number 3. She's a bit at the moment because she's got too much work. Now we need to use stress. So find the correct form. Have you got an answer? Well, stressed, the adjective, isn't it? She's a bit stressed at the moment because she's got too much work. What about number 4? It really me when people talk loudly on their mobile phones. Oh, I agree with this one. Now we need to use infuriate. So choose the correct form. Have you got an answer? Well, we need a verb here, no? It really infuriates me. Number 5. Ethan was so when he failed his driving test. Now we need to use the correct form of disappoint. Have you got an idea? Ethan was so disappointed when he failed his driving test. Now what about number 6? In number 6 we have to use worry. I can't find my passport, which is a bit, what do you think? Verb, ing, ed? Have you got an answer? Worrying, ing. Now my girlfriend is scared of flying. The idea of getting on a plane, her. And you need to use terrifying. What do you think? Verb? ed, ing? Let's see. Terrifies, we need the verb here, no? My girlfriend is scared of flying. The idea of getting on a plane terrifies her. What about number 8? We were when we received a surprise visit from some old friends. You need to use delight. Have you got an answer? We were delighted when we received a surprise visit from some old friends. Number 9, my son is a terrible loser, not winning something, really, him. Now here, what do I need? What do you think? ing, ed, verb? It's the verb, frustrates him, no? My son is a terrible loser, not winning something really frustrates him. Number 10, I was so when I called your boyfriend the wrong name. Now we need to use embarrass. Take a moment. Find the correct form and let's see what you can do. Embarrassed, no? I was so embarrassed when I called your boyfriend by the wrong name. Number 11, it me when my husband asks me where his clothes are. Now you need to use annoy. What do you think? Have you got an answer? It annoys me, not the verb, when my husband asks me where his clothes are. And number 12, his first visit to the theatre, him to take up acting. Now you need to use inspire. What do you think? Verb, ed adjective, ing adjective? Let's see. Inspired, I need the verb here, no? His first visit to the theatre inspired him to take up acting. Now, I just wanted to have a look at some more examples of this kind of idea about expressing your feelings with a verb, with an ed adjective or an ing adjective. So thanks for watching. We'll talk again soon.